parents expected me to give up dreams, pursued them anyway, and now living better life than they imagined. My dad's hand clamps around my forearm hard enough to pinch skin through the sleeve of my blazer, and I almost drop the microphone because my fingers go numb for a second from the shock of it. The room is full, warm bodies, wine breath, the soft hiss of a projector fan, and every face is turned toward the little stage I've been standing on, smiling too wide, trying to look like I belong here. Someone laughs in the back, thinking this is part of the event, like my father hauling me a half-step off-center is some planned joke. My dad leans in close, his mouth right by my ear, and hisses, "Tell them the truth. Tell them we didn't raise you for this." His voice is low, but it carries in a way angry voices do. My mother is 3 feet behind him, eyes glossy, hands fluttering at her chest like she can't decide if she's about to faint or start praying. The gallery owner, Mina, freezes beside the table of brochures, her smile caught halfway to her face like she's watching a crash in slow motion. I can hear my own heartbeat in my throat, loud as the feedback squeal the mic makes when my hand shakes. I pull my arm back, and it takes effort like peeling tape. "Dad," I say into the microphone without meaning to, and the word comes out louder than I wanted. People go quiet. The air thickens. My dad's face is tight with the kind of fury that's been simmering for years and finally found stage. He gestures at the photos behind me, the huge prints, my name in clean letters on the wall, and his lips curl like he's tasting something bitter. "Look at you," he says, not even trying to keep it private now, standing there like a celebrity, like we didn't feed you, like we didn't sacrifice everything. My hands are sweating so badly the mic wants to slide. I swallow and it hurts. My mother whispers, "Please, Habibti," not here, but she's not saying it to him. She's saying it to me, like I'm the one who might embarrass the family by reacting to being grabbed in front of strangers. I glance out at the crowd, clients, co-workers, people who paid tickets, and I see a few sympathetic faces, a few confused ones, one person already lifting their phone a little, that reflex everyone has now when something real starts happening. Mina steps forward, voice soft, "Sir, we can talk outside," and my dad cuts her off with a sharp look like she's furniture. My chest feels like it's full of hot water. I force my voice steady. "Let go of me," I say, quietly this time, not into the mic. His fingers tighten. I can feel the pulse in his thumb. And in that second, with everyone watching and my arm trapped and my life on the wall behind me, something in me finally stops trying to negotiate. It was a Tuesday night, 10 years ago, when my father stood in our kitchen in Bankstown and told me, very calmly, like he was stating whether, that dreams were for people who could afford them. I was 19, still wearing my uni lanyard, still smelling like the campus library, and I'd just come home buzzing because I'd won a small student film prize. Not money, just recognition, a certificate, a clunky trophy shaped like a reel. I'd walked in waving it like an idiot, laughing, trying to pull my parents into that excitement, and my dad didn't even look up from the table where he was sorting bills. "What's that?" he asked flat. I said, "They picked my film. I won." My mother smiled automatically, that polite smile she uses when she's not sure if she's allowed to be proud. My dad finally glanced up, saw the trophy, and his face didn't change. He said, "Nice. Now go wash the dishes." Then, when I didn't move right away because I was still waiting for the part where he'd say he was proud, he tapped the bills with his finger and said, "You're not wasting your life on cameras. You'll finish your degree, you'll get a stable job, and you'll help us." End of story. If you grow up with parents like mine, you learn early that love is tied to obedience, not in a dramatic, cartoon way. In small daily ways that feel normal until you're older and you try to explain it to someone and it sounds insane. My dad wasn't a monster. He didn't beat us. He worked constantly. He paid rent. He made sure we ate. He believed in duty the way some people believe in God. He'd come to Australia with nothing. He'd build a life through sheer stubbornness. And in his mind, the only acceptable return on that suffering was children who didn't take risks. He had a roadmap. Education, stable job, marriage, house, grandchildren. Anything outside it felt like betrayal. My dream didn't fit on his map. I didn't even have a dramatic dream like Hollywood. I just love making things. I love taking images and shaping them into stories. I love the quiet focus of a lens, the way a shot could hold a feeling without explaining it. The first time I borrowed a friend's camera in high school, it felt like my brain finally had a language. When I showed my dad a short clip I edited, my little brother laughing, my mom hanging washing sunlight through the blinds, my dad said, "Okay," and changed the channel. I tried to do it the safe way at first. I enrolled in a business degree because my dad approved of it, and I took film electives on the side like I was cheating. I worked at my uncle's convenience store on weekends. I sat at the dinner table listening to my dad talk about real careers and nodded like I agreed. I told myself I could keep my dream as a hobby until it magically became acceptable. That's what I did for years. I tried to shrink myself into something my parents wouldn't be afraid of. But the more I shrank, the more miserable I got. It wasn't a dramatic depression with crying on the bathroom floor every day. It was worse in a quieter way. It was waking up and feeling heavy. It was walking past people filming on campus and feeling a jealous ache. It was sitting in lectures about marketing strategy while my hands itched to be holding a camera. It was the constant low-level sense that my life belonged to someone else. My older brother, Kareem, didn't help. Kareem is the golden child who learned early how to win my dad's approval. He studied engineering. He wore button-down shirts. He spoke like a politician. My dad bragged about him to relatives like Kareem's achievements were proof my father had done everything right. Kareem would pat my shoulder and say things like, "Just be practical," in a voice that sounded kind but always came with that edge of superiority. When I mentioned film, he'd smirk. "So you want to be broke forever?" he'd ask. The first time I told my parents I wanted to switch degrees, my dad didn't yell. He just went very still. That was scarier. He looked at me across the table and said, "No," I said, "it's my life." He said, "It's our life. We are family." My mother said, "Please, Nadia, don't fight," even though I wasn't fighting yet. I tried to explain that I'd figured out a plan: part-time work, scholarships, freelance gigs. My dad listened like he was humoring a child and then said, "Plans are for people with money. You don't have money. You have family. You will not embarrass us." So I did what kids like me do when the family system leaves no room. I started lying. Not big dramatic lies, just omissions. I told them my classes ran late when I was actually shooting. I told them I was studying when I was editing. I saved money in a separate account they didn't know about. I bought a secondhand DSLR off Gumtree and hid in my closet behind winter coats. Every time I heard my dad's footsteps in the hallway, my heart would spike. It wasn't fear of being hit. It was fear of being found out, of having the one thing that made me feel alive taken away. The lie couldn't hold forever. It broke the day my dad found a camera. I came home from class and my bedroom door was open. That alone made my stomach drop because my parents didn't go into our rooms unless they were looking for something or looking to make a point. The camera was sitting on my bed like evidence. My dad stood beside it with his arms crossed, face blank. My mother hovered at the doorway, twisting a dish towel like she wanted to disappear into it. Kareem sat at my desk, scrolling his phone like he was bored, but his mouth was tight like he enjoyed this. My dad said, "What is this?" I tried to speak, but my throat felt glued. "A camera," I said stupidly. "I know what it is," he said. "Why do you have it?" The room felt too small. The air smelled like laundry detergent and something burnt from the kitchen. I could hear the neighbor's TV through the wall. I remember noticing stupid details like the way my desk lamp was slightly crooked because my brain was trying to escape the moment. "I bought it," I said, "with my money." My dad's eyes sharpened. "What money?" I said, "From work." He said, "You work for this?" "Yes," I said, and my voice shook. "I'm doing small gigs. I'm learning." My dad's mouth tightened. "So you lied." I said, "I didn't want you to stop me." Kareem finally looked up. "Because you knew it was stupid," he said. My dad ignored Kareem. He focused on me like I was the only problem in the room. "You think you know better than us," he said. "You think you can survive in this world with pictures." I felt heat behind my eyes. "It's not just pictures," I said. "It's work. It's skill. People pay for it." My dad snorted. "Who pays?" "Your friends." My mother whispered, "Nadia, please." Something in me snapped, not into violence, but into truth. "I'm not giving it up," I said. My dad stared at me, and the silence was long enough that I heard the fridge click on in the kitchen. Then he said, "If you choose this, don't come to me when you fail." I said, "Okay." He didn't expect that. I could see it. He expected tears, begging, submission. Not okay. He picked up the camera, and for a second I thought he was going to smash it. Instead, he held it out toward me like it disgusted him. "Take it," he said. "Take your dream. But don't take our money. Don't take our name. Don't take our peace." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and feeling like I was floating, not in a good way. Like the ties holding me to my family had loosened, and I didn't know if I'd drift free or fall. My mother came in quietly and sat on the edge of my bed. She didn't touch me at first. She just said, "Your father is scared." "I'm scared too," I said. She exhaled, shaky. "He thinks if you suffer, it will be his fault," she whispered. I almost laughed. "So his solution is to control me until I can't fail," I said, bitter. My mother's eyes filled. "He loves you," she said, "like love is something you can't question." "I know," I said, "but he loves the version of me he can predict." My mother put her hand on my ankle, small and warm. "Please don't leave us," she said. I didn't leave that night. Not physically, but something shifted, because I realized if I stayed inside their expectations forever, I would leave myself. The next few years were ugly in the way real change is ugly. I moved out at 21 into a tiny share house with peeling paint and cockroaches that came out when you turned the kitchen light on. I worked 2 jobs, barista in the morning, admin in the afternoon, and shot weddings on weekends. I slept 4 hours some nights. I edited on a laptop that overheated so badly I had to prop it up on cookbooks to get airflow. I cried in bathroom stalls. I ate instant noodles. I learned how to invoice, how to chase clients politely, how to say no to people who wanted exposure instead of payment. I learned fast because I had to. I didn't have a safety net because my father had cut it intentionally, like a lesson. My parents told relatives I was confused. My aunt said I was breaking my mother's heart. My dad wouldn't speak to me for months at a time. When he did, it was brief and transactional. "Are you eating? Are you safe?" Never. "Are you happy?" Happiness wasn't a valid metric in our house. Duty was. The hardest part wasn't the money. It wasn't even the work. It was the constant background shame my family tried to wrap around me like a scarf. Every time I visited, my dad would ask, "So when will you get a real job?" In front of everyone. Kareem would laugh. My mother would say, "She's trying," like I was failing at something important. And I'd sit there, smiling stiffly, chewing food I couldn't taste, feeling my jaw ache from holding myself together. There were nights I almost quit, not because I didn't love it, but because the loneliness was sharp. My friends didn't understand why I couldn't just ignore my family. People who grow up with easy parents don't understand the weight of disappointing them. It's not just they'll be mad. It's like you're severing a part of your identity. My father's approval had been my oxygen without me realizing it. Losing it made me dizzy, but then I'd shoot something that made me feel alive, a couple holding hands in harsh afternoon light, a bride laughing with her head thrown back, a small business owner tearing up because they finally had photos that looked like their dream, and the dizziness would ease. I'd remember why I was doing it. The first time I got a big job, I didn't tell my parents. It was a campaign for a local clothing brand. Real budget, real contract, real team. I spent 2 days on set, directing, shooting, sweating under studio lights, and when I got paid, I sat in my car and stared at the bank app for a full minute because I couldn't believe someone had paid that amount for something my father called pictures. I called my mother anyway, not to brag, just because I wanted her voice. I said, "Mom, I got a big job." She said, "That's nice," but her voice was careful, like she didn't want to encourage me. Then she added, quietly, "Don't tell your father yet." That hurt more than I expected, not because I needed my dad to clap for me, but because it meant my mother had learned to manage his emotions over celebrating my life. Over time, the work grew. It wasn't overnight success. It was slow and brutal and unglamorous. But it grew. I built a portfolio I was proud of. I got repeat clients. I started doing more commercial work. I rented a small studio space with chipped floors and big windows. I hired an assistant for busy days. I stopped panicking every time my rent was due. I started sleeping, and somewhere in there, my life started looking good. Better than good, actually. It started looking like mine. I traveled for shoots, Melbourne, Brisbane, sometimes overseas. I met people who valued creativity and professionalism. I made friends who didn't flinch when I said my job title. I dated someone who didn't try to shrink my ambition. I paid my own bills without feeling guilty for existing. I bought my mother a nice scarf once, not as repayment, but as a gift. She cried anyway, because gifts in our family always come with history. My parents didn't know most of that, or they knew in fragments. My mother would tell my father tiny pieces like she was spoon-feeding him something he might choke on. Nadia has work in Melbourne. Nadia is busy this weekend. My father would grunt. Kareem would roll his eyes. No one asked details. Then, last year, a magazine featured my work. Just a small spread. A local arts publication. They interviewed me about my process, my background, the way I use light. My name was printed under my photos. I bought 3 copies and kept one in my bag like a secret comfort. And then my aunt saw it at the grocery store, and suddenly my phone was buzzing with relatives I hadn't heard from in years. We saw you. So talented. We are proud. People love success when it arrives packaged as proof. My dad didn't call me to congratulate me. He called me to ask why I hadn't told him. Not because he wanted to celebrate. Because he didn't like being the last to know. Control again, wearing a different mask. "What is this magazine thing?" he demanded. "It's just a feature," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "And you didn't tell us." I swallowed. "You didn't want to hear it," I said. His voice sharpened. "Don't speak to me like that." "Then don't pretend you've supported this," I said, and my hands started shaking the way they always do when I talk back to him, like my body still thinks I'm 19 and about to get punished. He hung up. My mother called later, crying, saying I'd hurt him. I almost apologized out of reflex. Then I didn't. I just said, "Mom, I'm tired." The gallery show, the one that's blowing up right now in real time, is the biggest thing I've done so far. It's not fame. It's not millions. But it's mine. It's a curated collection of photos from the last 5 years. Portraits, street scenes, moments I captured while building my career. Mina approached me months ago and said she wanted to showcase my work. I said yes, then spent nights panicking that I didn't deserve it. That's another thing parents like mine give you. The belief that you're always one mistake away from being exposed as delusional. When I finally told my mother about the show, I hesitated so long before saying it that she asked if I was sick. I said, "I have an exhibition." She went quiet. Then she said, "Should we come?" Like she was asking permission. I said, "If you want." She said, "Your father won't like it." I said, "It's not for him to like." My voice sounded harsher than I intended. She whispered, "I'm proud of you." And it made my eyes burn because it was the first time she'd said it without flinching. I didn't invite my father directly. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I didn't trust him not to do exactly what he's doing right now. Turn my milestone into a battleground. My mother must have told him anyway. Or Kareem did. Kareem loves being the messenger when it gets him attention. So now I'm on stage, with my work behind me, in a room full of people, and my father is gripping my arm like I'm still his to direct. In the present, in the gallery, my father's face is inches from mine. "You think you're better than us now," he says, loud enough that people near the front hear. I can see them exchange glances, that uncomfortable social flinch. Mina steps forward again, firmer this time. "Sir," she says, "you need to leave." My father snaps his head toward her. "This is my daughter," he says like that gives him ownership of the air. My mother whispers, "Please, please," and reaches for his sleeve, but he shrugs her off. I look down at his hand on my arm. I can see his knuckles, the slight tremor, the veins. This is a man who worked himself into exhaustion to protect his family and then used that protection like a weapon. I feel a wave of anger, so hot my eyes sting. I'll lift the microphone closer, not because I want to humiliate him, but because I want to stop hiding. "You don't get to do this," I say, and my voice sounds steadier than I feel. The mic catches it. The room hears. My father's eyes widen. What are you saying? He snaps. I'm saying, I continue, and I force myself to breathe. I'm not ashamed of my work. And I'm not going to stand here while you try to make me feel small to make yourself feel in control. My arm still hurts where he's gripping. I'm hyper-aware of every sensation, the heat of the lights, the sweat between my shoulder blades, the way my tongue feels too big in my mouth. My mother makes a small sound like she's about to cry harder. Nadia, she whispers, warning again. I glance at her, and something softens just for a second because I see the fear in her face, fear of him, fear of the fallout, fear of family fracture. Then I look back at my father. You told me dreams were for people who could afford them. I say into the mic, well, I couldn't afford them. So I worked. I worked 2 jobs. I built this, and I did it without your support. There's a hush so deep I can hear the projector fan again. Mina's eyes are wide, but she doesn't interrupt. My father's mouth opens, closes. He looks like he can't decide whether to explode or deny. You're lying, he says finally, voice tight. We raised you. We fed you. You raised me. I say. You did, and I'm grateful for what you provided. But you also try to control who I became. You try to scare me out of my own life. And I'm done pretending that was love. My father's grip loosens slightly, like the words physically pried his fingers open. His face goes red. You humiliate me in front of strangers, he says, voice shaking with rage. You humiliated me for years in front of family. I say back, and my voice cracks a little on years because it's true and it hurts. You call my work stupid. You told people I was confused. You told me I'd fail. I'm not doing this quietly anymore. I can see a phone fully raised now in the second row. Someone is recording. I hate that, but I can't control it. My father takes a step forward like he might grab the mic, and Mina signals to someone near the door. A security guard, someone I didn't even notice before, starts moving toward us. My father sees the guard, and his pride spikes. You will throw me out? He says, voice rising. Your own father? I feel my chest tighten. This is the part where, in the past, I would have folded. I would have apologized. I would have soothed. I would have handed in my moment just to avoid being the bad daughter. Instead, I set the microphone down on the stand carefully, like placing something fragile. My hand shakes, but I do it. Then I look at him and say, quietly, without the mic, yes. If you don't stop. The security guard reaches us. Sir, he says calmly, you need to come with me. My father's eyes blaze. He looks at my mother like she'll back him up. She's crying openly now, but she doesn't move. She looks at me, and her face is wrecked with conflict, but there's something else there too, something like understanding. My father turns back to me, and for a second, behind the rage, I see something raw. Fear, not of being embarrassed. Fear that he's losing control of the narrative, losing control of me, losing the version of family where he's the center. He opens his mouth, but no words come out that won't make him look worse. So he spits, you think you won, like it's an insult. The guard gently guides him toward the door. My father jerks his arm away, but he goes because the room is watching and his pride won't let him physically struggle. He throws one last look at me over his shoulder like a curse. My mother stays. She wipes her cheeks with trembling fingers. Kareem isn't here. He couldn't make it, which means he didn't want to witness anything that might challenge his position as the approved child. My mother looks small in the middle of the gallery, surrounded by my life. I pick up the mic again, hands still shaking. Mina steps closer, whispering, do you want to stop? I swallow, taste salt. I look out at the room. People are staring, not cruelly, but with that awkward empathy people get when they've accidentally witnessed something intimate. I take a breath and say, sorry about that. My voice comes out rough. A few people chuckle softly, not because it's funny, but because they're relieved I'm still standing. I continue, this work, it's about the life we build when we don't fit the life someone else planned for us. The words feel true in my mouth. I talk for another minute, not perfectly, but honestly, and then I step off the stage and my legs almost give out because adrenaline is a liar. Mina squeezes my shoulder. You did nothing wrong, she murmurs. My mother approaches me slowly like she's afraid I'll disappear. Up close, I can see the deep lines around her mouth, the tiredness. He shouldn't have come, she whispers. He shouldn't have tried to take it, I whisper back. She flinches, then nods once. I'm sorry, she says, and the simplicity of it makes my eyes burn. She doesn't say, for your father. She says, I'm sorry, like it includes her too. I don't fix her feelings. I don't rush to comfort her. I just say, thank you, and my voice shakes. We stand there for a second in the middle of my gallery, surrounded by my photos, and for the first time it feels like she's seeing me without translating me through my father's fear. After the event, when the room clears and the last wine glass is collected, I sit on the floor of the gallery with my back against the wall, shoes off, feet aching. Mina sits beside me, silent, handing me a bottle of water. My phone has messages, missed calls from my dad, a text from Kareem saying, "What the hell did you do?" A string of crying emojis from my aunt that I ignore because I don't have the energy for her dramatics. There's also a message from a client who says, "Your work was incredible tonight. Proud of you." That one makes my chest tighten in a different way. I stare at the screen until my eyes blur. On the drive home, my mother calls. I expect her to be in full guilt mode, telling me to apologize. Instead, she says softly, "Your father is very angry." I know, I say. She's quiet. Then she says, "He is also confused." I almost laugh, but it comes out as a sigh. He doesn't know what to do when I don't fold. I say. My mother makes a small sound, like agreement. "He is afraid you won't need him," she admits. I grip the steering wheel tighter. Streetlights blur past. "I needed him," I say. "He just didn't like what I needed him for." Silence again. Then my mother says, "I was proud tonight." Her voice breaks. "When I saw your name, I thought she did it." I swallow hard. "I did," I say. When I get home, I stand in my apartment. The one I pay for, the one with my photos on the fridge and my camera gear in the corner, and I feel the weight of what happened settle. I'm not floating anymore. I'm standing. My arm is bruised where my father grabbed it. Tomorrow it will turn purple, a physical mark of a boundary finally defended. I touch it gently, wince, and then I laugh quietly to myself. Not because it's funny, but because it's real. This is what choosing your life looks like sometimes. Not a triumphant montage. A bruise and a shaking hand in a room full of strangers watching you refuse to be pulled backward. My father will probably tell the family I embarrassed him. Kareem will probably call me selfish. Relatives will pick sides based on who makes them more comfortable. My mother will be caught in the middle again, because that's where she's lived for decades. And I'll feel guilt, because guilt is the language my childhood taught me. But guilt isn't a compass. It just points to where the pressure used to work. My parents expected me to give up my dreams. They expected me to trade my life for their peace. I didn't. I pursued them anyway. And now I'm living a life they never imagined for me. One where I'm not begging for permission to exist as myself. If my father ever comes around, it'll be on the other side of my boundary, not inside it. And if he never does, then at least I'll know this. I didn't give up my life just to keep someone else from being afraid.